are you? I am Rondon, you despicable melanoid slime worm. Liar!
Who do you think you're bullying? You bumped into me. It was your mistake. You were at fault. Do you want this to become violent?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fully Functional, a TNG podcast. I'm Maggie, joined by Jeff and Dory.
Hey.
Jeff and I are Star Trek nerds. Dory's a Star Trek novice. And we are going on a journey through Star Trek The Next Generation, episode by episode. Today, we're discussing episode 19 of season 1, called Coming of Age. And we will go to Dory for the recap.
Okay. So...
Oh, you're already laughing. That's a good sign.
What a ride. Okay, so first, no captain's log at the beginning. We meet, what a twist. What a twist. So we see Wesley running after some kid named Jake with a bad haircut. And Jake is bummed because he didn't pass a test or something to be a candidate for the academy. So Wesley is going to the Relva 7 for his test.
The Relva 7?
Whatever. The planet.
The
Relva.
The Relva 7? Wow.
Yeah. Not 6 or 8. The 7. So Wesley's going down to do his test. Meanwhile, we meet Admiral Gregory Quinn and his guy there, Dexter Remick.
Oh, is his first name Dexter? That's amazing.
Dexter. Yeah, his first name is Dexter. I write down everybody's names now.
I love it.
We'll see how well I remember, but I write down everybody's names, so at least I try to remember.
Can we call him Dex?
No.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't seem like he'd like that.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I feel like he's the kind of guy where you say
I don't give
Dex.
a shit what he likes. He's an asshole.
If you say Dex, he'll be like, actually, it's Dexter. Like, he could immediately correct you. I could call it, okay, I'll refer to him as Dexter, though. Even though I refer to him as Remick in my notes. I'll call him Dexter. That will be satisfactory. Anyways, okay. I couldn't think of the word satisfactory. Okay, so they're on the ship. Dexter and Greg. Call him Dexter and Greg.
It's always funny when you use people's first names.
So Dexter and Greg are on the ship. They are running an investigation because there's reason to believe that there may be something very wrong on the ship, which to me is like, get the fuck off this ship. That means nothing. That means nothing. So Dexter says no one and nothing will get in his way, which is like, ugh, shut the fuck up, Dexter.
Yeah, they purposely make him like really
so
threatening from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also found it really funny that when he does his like nobody will get in my way, he's staring at Picard, but the second Picard turns to him, he looks away. So like he's actually intimidated by Picard, but he's not going to show Picard that.
I can't lock eyes with him.
So, okay, so there's an investigation. But Picard... Oh, yeah, they also wouldn't let Riker in the room to tell him what was going on. So Riker's, like, upset. Okay, back to the... I don't know if I should do this in order or if I should just do one storyline at a time.
It's up to you, to be honest. It really does go back and forth quite a bit. It interweaves them very well.
Yeah. You know what? I'll just do one at a time.
Okay.
Because otherwise... yeah, I'll just do it one at a time. Okay, so we'll do the Wesley stuff first. Okay, so Wesley he looks like he's playing with like a really big calculator and he meets Oleana Moran and they have the longest handshake of all times. Then they meet she's one of the candidates. Then there's also Tishanik of Volcana Rhaegar.
Yeah, I don't know why she says Volcana. That's a weird one. But
yeah.
It's an early TNG thing, so...
Yeah, okay. And then Mordock, who I wrote is a blue alien with a harmonica attachment.
Excuse me, Mordock vapes.
Yeah. I don't know. I like Mordock. He's fun.
He's a harmonica. He has a harmonica vape.
Yeah, he's a good time. I enjoy him. And then we meet TAC Officer Chang. So basically they have to do a series of tests to figure out who's like the best candidate to join the academy. They'll only take one, and there's these 4 people.
Why will they only take one? Because we need an arbitrary problem for this episode.
Yeah.
So then I think like the first task is like one of those watermelon math problems. You know what I mean? It's like the Mike buys 6 watermelons, but he's traveling on a jet ski at 26,000 miles per hour. What color socks is Mike wearing?
It's more like those like train problems. It's like a train traveling west to Philadelphia is like 3,600 miles per hour, and a train traveling the other way is like at 500 miles per hour. Where do they meet? That kind of shit.
Or what did the conductor eat for breakfast?
Yeah.
I love those. They make no sense.
Yeah.
I think what's kind of ridiculous about that is they hadn't really got down the lingo yet, and they decided to use the word hyperspace in it, which is a Star Wars thing.
Gasp. The crossover we didn't know was happening. Okay, so they do the test. Wesley does well. Oleana is like, she's like, you guys don't have to try. And he's like, oh, I study all the time. And we're like, really, Wesley? You did nothing last episode but like stand around.
That's
you
true.
weren't studying then, Wesley.
Well, she calls him on it. She's like, she says like,
Yeah.
it's a good thing you're
you
cute,
think
otherwise
I'm
you'd be
cute.
obnoxious.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, she said I was cute. And Murdoch's like, is that a good thing? And he's like, yes, I think. Oh, Wes, you.
Yeah. I found that bit very charming.
Yeah, I honestly, I liked this. I like Wesley's stuff this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I
Me too.
enjoyed the Academy stuff. So yeah, they do another test thing that I don't really remember. It had like those dots with the cube things. But anyways, to the real part. So Wesley's in the hall with Murdoch, and this huge man asks him for directions. So he gives him the directions, and then this man plows into Wesley and just starts shouting at him. And he calls him a couple of really interesting insults that I've never heard before, but might use in the future. One was, you Bulgarian sludge rat, and the other one was, you despicable melanade slime worm.
You
Yeah.
ugly bag of mostly water.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of goes with the trend of like Star Trek where they take a normal thing and just add like a weird space word to the front of it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like the
it was
Bulgarian
interesting.
sludge rat. It's like, it's supposed to be like, that's an animal from another planet. It's like you just took rat and added some nonsense words to the front of
Ooh,
it.
Andorian silk. It's just silk.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then like the teacher comes by and is like, is everything cool? What's happening? And Wes is like, no, everything's fine. And then this guy, the big guy, his name is Randon? I don't know.
I don't
Random.
remember.
His name is Random.
And
Very random.
so random. He puts his hand up and we notice, well, Wes did, and so did I, that he had like webbed fingers. And I was like, what the hell is that for? What's happening there? And then as it turns out, this guy's from like a different culture who like doesn't like politeness, even though Wesley proves in this episode that Dr. Crusher did an excellent job raising him, because this kid has impeccable manners up until he threatens violence. But it is a tactic, because he's like, who do you think you're bullying? You bumped into me. It was your mistake. You were at fault. Do you want this to become violent?
Yeah.
I was like, Wesley, you lost me there.
Yeah.
Not for 1 second do I think that guy is going to be like, this was Wesley going to be violent. Especially this man. You know what I pictured? You remember those like put your hand on somebody's forehead, and so when the person reaches, they can't like punch you?
Yeah.
That's what I was picturing. That like Wesley is in that situation. He's the forehead guy.
Although Wesley has some long limbs.
Yeah. I guess he's tall-ish. I have no idea how tall he is. I'm so bad with figuring out how tall people are and stuff. I have no sense of sizes of stuff.
But in proportion, he has, like, long legs and pretty long arms.
Okay, well, fair. Yeah, so it turns out it was a test. He passed because he, like, was able to identify that this guy was a guy who liked people to be rude. I don't know. Go with that kink, whatever.
Yeah.
Then they do... Ooh, Wes is also, like, really kind of worried about one of the other tests, which is, like, a psych test, in which he actually discusses this with Worf in what I wrote down is, hey, this is the Dreamatorium from Community. But logically, obviously, this came first because Community only came out in the 2000s, I think 2009. And this is 88. But now I get the reference more. But also, I was actually really surprised to see that's what the holodeck looks like when it's not all, like, fired up.
Yeah.
Oh, we've seen it before,
also,
that was in, like, the third
episode.
episode.
Yeah. That was... Oh, yeah. That's the... okay. I don't think I realized that's where Yar did her...
karate thing.
Yeah. Okay. I remember being in... Okay. I forgot about that. Oh, yes. Also, I really want to know what Worf's holodeck fantasy thing was going to be.
Oh, yeah. What he was going to use
because
the
that would have
for.
been really interesting.
No, you don't.
I do. I absolutely do. I want to know more about Worf. Every time I learn something new about him, I'm like, oh, damn. What? So, yeah, Wesley is just worried about the psych because he doesn't know what his biggest fear is, and he's going to be forced to, like, face it. So finally, it's time for the psych test, and he's waiting in a hallway. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but the hallway matched his sweater.
Oh.
Oh, no, I didn't
notice that.
It absolutely... I took a screen cap. I'll send it in our group chat. The color scheme was exactly Wesley's sweater. It was almost uncanny. It was so weird.
I could see that because I think that sweater is supposed to represent the different Starfleet departments.
Yeah,
so
probably.
It would make sense if the hallway had a similar color scheme.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
That's why he's exclusively in that sweater now. I think it's like a semi-uniform.
The best sweater.
Yeah.
And so he goes into this room. He's really nervous, sits on his chair, and then there's like a bang or shouting or whatever, and he runs into the hallway. Nobody's there, and he basically can hear people shouting through a door that's closed, and he just sort of stands there for like a good few seconds. And I was like, this is obviously part of the test thing, but I kind of would have thought he would
figure that out.
I'm not going to judge Wes too hard on this because I forget that he's a child. I do forget that he's only 15.
Yeah.
And we all react different to
Sorry,
things.
He'll be 16 next month.
Oh, sorry. I forgot. Happy early birthday. Right? I almost forgot. My bad. So, yeah, he finally opens the door. There's like some thing on this guy, and then there's another guy screaming in the corner. And they're like, we're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. And Wesley like fully just stands there looking at everybody like, okay, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Eventually, he does jump into action, and he saves the guy on the floor, and he just keeps yelling at the screaming guy to, like, calm the fuck down and, like, leave. And he's like, I don't want to go through that, like, smoke thing that Wesley's literally going through. Yeah. So it's like, buddy, if this child can go through it, you can go through it. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
So he gets the man out. The doors close while the other guy's still in there. And then Officer Chang shows up, and he's like, congratulations, Wesley, you did it. And he's like, oh, that was the test. So then the guy he dragged out just like stands up and walks away. Then my favorite then the screaming guy just walks out and nods at Wesley like do 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 do.
Thanks, bud. Thanks for killing me.
Yeah. And Wesley is shocked to learn that his fear is making decisions. Which in like, yes, actually that makes some, okay, it's a two-prong. It makes sense, but it also doesn't.
It's making life and death decisions.
Yeah.
So maybe he shouldn't be a captain.
I mean, I just wish there was more. My biggest thing with this was like,
more exploration of it.
Yeah. I wish we had sort of seen this before, because then I was like, truly, I couldn't even guess what Wesley's biggest fear was. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't know, being left out in a disaster. Like, I don't know.
Not being the center of attention.
Yeah.
Like Picard never liking him. Yeah. I mean,
because I
don't know.
I completely forgot what it was going to be. So when I was watching the episode, I thought it was going to be him like not knowing an answer or just in general not knowing what to do.
Okay.
Because that seems in Wesley's character to me. That, like, he always kind of has an answer to things, or he always kind of knows what to do. He's never really, like, at a loss.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
Yeah. But, like, when they give the explanation, it does make sense.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's why I say it's, like, two-pronged. It's, like, on one hand, it does make sense, but at the same time, I can't, like...
There wasn't enough build-up to it.
Be super supportive of it. Yeah. But anyway, so Wesley, in fact, does not make the team. And Mordock does. But Mordock, being the fantastic, like, new... fabulous guy, he gives Wesley the credit that, like, look, he helped me and I wouldn't be in this position without you. And then Wesley's like, oh, you would have done the same for me. And then Mordock does. He just turns, like, it's not even subtle. He just turns his entire body away from Wes, makes the, like, biggest facial expression of, yeah, okay. And then turns back and is like, yeah. I thought...
No, totally.
It actually made me like Mordock more. It made me like him more because that was a lot. And
yeah.
He put the effort into making that a lot. So,
yeah.
You know what? Fly free, Mordock.
Yeah. I know he was genuine about it, but it came off as he was like, yeah, sure. I would totally do the same for you.
Yeah, it just was a really interesting reaction.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Mordock, good for you. And, Wes, he was bummed. He felt like he failed everybody, but, you'll try next year. And there was no way he was actually going to get into it this year.
Yeah.
Because we're not even done the first season.
Yeah.
So.
Fun fact, this particular method of applying to the academy is never seen again.
Oh,
because it doesn't make sense
yes.
to only let one candidate from each group in.
Yeah, plus like a year.
Like, imagine that you have a class and you're only allowed to pass half of them. So it doesn't matter how smart the other half are, they have to fail.
I understand that, like, you have to have some exclusivity. Like, like college programs, they can only let a certain amount of people in, right?
Yes.
But it's like, why would you turn down qualified candidates?
They did literally say you are all exemplarily qualified.
Yeah. Unless they kind of, like, I wouldn't do it this way, but I understand if it's like, okay, you do some exams and you get on a short list, and then from that list, you pare down the class to accommodate.
Yeah, I can see that. Dory, quick question.
We haven't even gone to plot B.
Before we go on, what did you actually think about the episode? Like, did you feel positively about it?
The Wesley stuff, yes.
Okay.
The plot B, no.
Really?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I was very frustrated with plot B, actually.
Because plot B is, I think it actually takes up more of the episode than plot A does, oddly enough.
Yeah.
Perhaps. It almost seems a little equal, but...
Yeah, this episode is more of, like, plot, like, A1 and A2.
That's true. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Anyway, we're still only, like, halfway through the recap.
This one I think is a little easier.
Okay.
So let me give you a couple of fun facts about it before we go on with it then. So, as I mentioned
Wait, shouldn't Dory
last time...
finish the recap first?
Oh, are you not done?
No,
that was only the Wesley story.
Oops.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me do the quick of the Picard shit, and then we'll come back. Okay, so we're with Greg and Dexter. So apparently there's some bad shit happening or something very wrong on the ship, but we don't get to know what the very wrong is. So Dexter is interviewing people being real shady and like everything is a technicalities. Like, so we kind of revisit a couple of incidents throughout the season that is truly like, if you look at circumstances and context, it's fine. It makes sense. But like Dexter's going out of his way to be an asshole about it. So he's interviewing everybody, but then he wants to interview Riker, and Riker's really trying to avoid it. So he like pieces out an elevator, and finally he's like, fine, I'll interview him. And then Riker does.
Yes.
So Riker agrees to have the interview, and he's just standing in the room, and Dexter's like, you can sit down, it won't affect my writing. So Riker chooses to sit on this chair in the most bizarre seating choice I've ever seen anyone make, where he basically just like throws his leg over the entire chair to sit down.
I am so
that's actually called the Riker Maneuver.
Is that actually a thing?
Yeah, I am so excited that you noticed that, because that
it
is
made me
Riker's
crazy.
thing.
I liked it. I liked it, but I just the intensity of just like is that supposed to?
This is the first time you see it, and it never stops.
As far as we know.
That actually
always does
I'm
it.
actually psyched for that because I did like it. I laughed. I just in this sort of situation where like they're being investigated for like some like, I don't know,
misconduct or something.
Yeah, and Riker chooses that way to sit on a chair.
Yeah.
In a serious Inquisition situation where the captain is being accused of like, you know, not being mentally fit to be a captain or whatever.
It is a choice.
And Riker's like, let me just lift my leg like a dog taking a pee and then fling it over the chair.
There's like a minute-long video that just compiles all the time that he sits down like that throughout the series.
Oh, I would love to watch that when we're done.
Yeah.
Sure.
The show.
Jonathan
100%.
Frakes has been asked about it, and
there is a reason he does it.
Yeah, he's gone on record to say that
I like it.
Yeah, so the reason that he does it is that it sidesteps him ever having to turn his back to the camera.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is a point to it. It's an acting point more than anything else. Also has to do with the fact that he's tall and the chairs are not. So that helped.
It's also the smoothest move ever.
And doesn't he have some like weird back problem or something?
I didn't hear about that, but I could be wrong.
Okay, I could be like mixing up a memory with something else.
Honestly, though, if somebody did that to me, like in person, to somebody I was like sitting at a table with, and they did that to me, I would die. I would, not in a bad way. I mean, in a good way. I don't know why, but there's something weirdly endearing about that weird move.
Yep.
That I feel like I would burst out laughing, and then like, I don't know. I would like that.
I'm so happy you noticed that.
Yeah, that was, I think, honestly, one of my favorite things of this episode.
I think it also ensures that you don't have to look down when you're sitting down.
Yes.
Because you have your hand on the back of the chair and you're swinging over, you don't have to look down to make sure you're sitting in the right place.
Oh, fair. Yeah. Legit.
So it helps his acting. He never has to turn his back and he never has to look down. Get to see his beautiful face at all times.
Nice. I mean, I very much like that acting choice. Oh yeah, so he has kind of like, I don't know, all these conversations with Dexter are kind of stupid, and it ultimately leads to a really even more stupid conversation with Greg. That made me, honestly, that got me so frustrated because, yeah, there is no wrongdoing. It was basically Greg very vaguely says there's some kind of something happening. We don't know what. He doesn't know by who, but there's some bad stuff who's trying to turn over 200 years of Federation shit. And I'm like, Greg, if you don't have any fucking concrete information for us, why are you pulling this nonsense? Because you've wasted everybody's time and effort. And then what? The only thing that comes out of this is that Dexter's like, my spot with Greg is done in 6 months. I'd like to join the ship when that's done.
I love how Picard just looks incredibly awkward when he delivers that line. He's just kind of like looking away like, I'm not going to acknowledge that.
Yeah. I do like that everybody is so, like with the interviews of all the individual people, everybody's really loyal and stands up for each other. And I like that. Dr. Crusher gets a really good line where she's like, my personal feelings about Captain Picard are irrelevant to this investigation and none of your business. And she doesn't lose her cool. She stays cool, calm, collected. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Greg is like, we want you to also maybe become the principal of the academy, which I found really funny. And I think Picard did also later, because he was like, the academy?
Yeah, because at first he's like, wow, the academy? And then he realized he'd have to deal with children, and he's like, the academy?
Exactly. That's exactly what I thought. It was like, we know for how all these episodes, Picard is not good with the youth.
Yeah.
And then Greg is like, hey, we'd like to put you in the ultimate awkward position of dealing with all of the youth. Because like, and I was like, on one hand, like, actually, like, in theory, Picard would be great as the principal of this school, because then you're molding young minds from him, and he's like dependable. Like, we trust his judgment and everything, but also like it's children, so that that completely negates the other stuff.
Although he did a good job with Wesley at the end of the episode.
Oh yeah, that was the nicest I think Picard has ever been to Wesley. I think I was just so angry about Greg.
Oh.
Because not only did Greg waste everybody's time, he wasted mine. And he couldn't even give information of what was happening. And here's another question. Is there, and this is like the kind of spoiler where it doesn't have to be specific, but I need some, is this relevant? This whole, like this interview thing they had today, do we ever revisit this?
Yeah. There's some interesting implications down the road that stem from this episode.
Okay.
So it's not a complete waste of time.
Okay. It just feels like in this episode, the vagueness of Quinn, like Greg not giving information, like just saying, we suspect there's been some stuff happening, some shenanigans, but we don't know by who. It's either in the Federation or outside the Federation. Mm-hmm. And it's with including a lot of people, but not you, don't worry. And I don't know what I want from you. Like, I don't know. It just, it felt so vague that I was like, I don't believe you. Like, it almost felt, you know what it felt like? And I kept thinking, it felt like Captain America Winter Soldier, where like the phone calls or like the society is actually the bad guy. Like the bad guys are in there and they're just trying to, like, it's like Robert Redford being like, hey, everything's fine. Let me just like talk to you about this. And then no, like Greg is Robert Redford in this situation. And so that's why I was like, this is just honestly making Greg really suspicious to me.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So, okay, now that I know it's also, if this is like a thing in the future, holy shit, there's like repercussions. We have something that will make a difference in another episode.
Yeah.
Technically, because like this episode, we did end up exactly the same. Nobody's going to the academy.
Yeah.
Not Picard, not Wesley. But at least there's a start of something that we now know, thanks to you guys, that, you know, there is some, you know, fishy business happen. So there is something leading into something else.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna say anything, but you asked, and I just wanted to throw you that bone that, like...
Yeah, no, I needed to know because
otherwise... I literally told Maggie not to tell more.
Yeah.
I need to just know that there is, like,
that this matters.
because otherwise it's a waste.
Yeah.
But now that I know something does happen with it in the future...
So then, I actually quite enjoyed this episode.
Oh, me too.
All the way through. I don't remember really liking it that much years ago, but like going back to it as a season 1 episode, I think it's quite good.
Same here. This is one that I usually like skip, but I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed it. Yeah.
So in the previous episode that we did, I mentioned that was the last one that Gene Roddenberry served as the showrunner for.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out there's a little bit more to it than just that, and it's very, very unique. So Maurice Hurley, who's the one who took over the show, he had concerns about the direction that it had been going up until this point, and he decided there's only one option. So he personally paid for Gene Roddenberry and his wife to take a vacation and took over the show in his absence.
Ooh, a coup.
Oh my.
Well, sort of. Once Roddenberry got back, he sort of convinced him to let him take the show in his own direction, and Roddenberry was fine with it, because I guess he had been having problems with dealing everyone up until that point too. So it was really a mutual decision in that regard. So Hurley had ideas, and you can see this in interviews with him that I might show you at some point in the future, where he clearly was thinking forward with the show. It's, hey, what if I introduce a tidbit here? What if we have a kind of slow build continuing story going on? And I mean, because it was the late 80s when this was being made, obviously you couldn't do it so that it's like completely serialized. But you can put out tidbits, and you can have parts of episodes build up into other episodes independently of each other. So that was his idea with going with this. And also, this is, I think, the first time that you get an episode that I'd say is there is a plot, but it's extremely character focused. Like it's about dealing with Wesley's personal growth, and he does have an arc going on through it where he's very like worried about his own confidence in the beginning of the episode, and by the end of it, that worry about his confidence it's still weighing on him. It's still a character flaw, but he understands it now. And I really like that you actually get like a real part of character growth on his part. And I think that although it ended really abruptly, there's that scene between him and Worf in the holodeck.
Oh, I love that scene.
Yeah, that is quite frankly the best moment of Worf that we've had in the entire series up until this point, and possibly one of the best Wesley moments up until this point in the series. So, I mean, good on this episode for really like carrying things forward, and good on Maurice Hurley for having ideas for how to focus the show better.
Yeah,
and it was them being vulnerable, even Worf, and that just like it's heartwarming.
Yeah.
And it makes them more interesting.
There is a cut scene from the episode.
I know what Jeff's going to say.
The cut scene was going to be Wesley's 16th birthday party. The scene was actually shot, like it exists, but it was cut. And in the dialogue, Worf and Data are having a discussion about birthdays, and Worf's like, "Well, Klingons don't celebrate birthdays. We don't care about them." And Data's like, "Well, how do you know how old you are?" He says, "I don't." And it's just like, what's the point in that dialogue exchange? It's funny, but it really serves nothing.
Yeah, it is funny that Worf doesn't know how old he is. Although, to be fair, I often forget how old I am.
I mean, I don't remember how old Worf is. I don't know if they ever actually state it in the series. They might not.
Yeah, I
hope they don't. That's kind of great. Oh, wow.
It's kind of implied that Klingons grow up at roughly the same rate as humans do, but at the same time, it's not shown that at all.
Yeah.
And I won't get into why, because that's TNG spoilers and DS9 spoilers.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that they're not really very consistent about, and they just change it based on how they want to write things, basically.
Yeah. I liked, just getting back to the Wesley stuff, I really liked that even though him not getting into the academy was very obviously an excuse to reset, I thought it was, like, that's how you do a reset at the end of the episode, in my opinion. It makes perfect sense for the story, and it is a very logical conclusion to the events that happened. And what they're trying to get across.
It does, like, produce a noticeable change in him going forward, like, because up until this point, most of the Wesley stuff has been pushed by the Gene Roddenberry side.
Yeah. And
they obviously wanted to go somewhere a lot better with him and not make him, obnoxious. And I'm almost wondering if that obnoxious comment that other woman there made
was like a meta joke?
Like tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, he said people started, like, not liking his character pretty early.
Yeah, it was near instantly he was, like, considered a bad addition to the series, but he is written much better from this point going forward. Yeah. I think we've passed most of the oh god, a Wesley episode ones.
I think it's like watching it again, like, because in my head I'm always like, well, I get why people don't like him, and I still do, but now it just seems extra unfair.
I mean, I do understand people not want to see someone like Wesley in their space science fiction show.
And, like, how, especially with how much attention he gets compared to other people. So it's never fair to take out your frustration of a character on the actor. Like, definitely that's never okay. But, like, given how annoyed people were, like, because I can understand being that annoyed at a character. Not cool to harass people over it and death threats and all that shit. But I understand the feeling. Mm-hmm. I'm understanding that feeling when it comes to Wesley less and less.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I don't think that amount of annoyance is warranted towards his character.
No, and I feel like just as much of it was, like, retroactive annoyance as it was annoyance when it was happening. Yeah. Which is even more ridiculous because... Like, if you're watching the show years later, I'm sorry, it's in syndication. Like, if you don't feel like watching it, watch something new.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really hate precocious kids. teenagers, they're too scary. The youth, they're I don't care for the youth.
Teenagers scare the living shit out of me.
Yeah. And at the beginning of the show, I was like, I'm not gonna like Wesley. And then like pretty quickly I'm like, no, I like Wesley.
Yeah.
I mean, what I like about him is he still feels like a teenager the whole time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And though, yeah, they give him a lot of attention, like the show gives him a lot of attention, and he's got that like wonderkind whole thing, smartest person. But I never found him unlikable. And I feel like there are people's issues with Wesley probably have a lot more to do with their own bullshit than Wesley, because I don't understand how people hate him as much as I've been told they do. And then with this episode, it brought him down a notch, that, you know, you did good. And he even himself at the end, he's like, I failed Enterprise, I failed you, blah blah blah. And I think like this, it was almost like I was kind of sad for him in a way.
Yeah.
Like it's good to, like, you know, they're bringing him down a notch, but he is still a child.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
quite true.
it kind of baffles me how people could I think he totally makes sense as like, I'm not wording this the way I want it to be, but basically I don't understand why people didn't like him. Yeah, he can be a little annoying here and there, but you know what? As someone who really does not want much to do with kids or teens or any of that stuff, I like Wesley.
Yeah.
I find him perfectly enjoyable.
I do have to disagree with one little bit of advice that Picard gave him at the end when he said the only person you're truly competing against is yourself. And it's like, no, he was actually competing against 3 other people.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what
3 other people.
I know what he means on like a philosophical level, but like, I literally was competing against like 4 other people.
Another thing I forgot to mention, according to the cut Wesley birthday scene, one of Wesley's favorite pastimes is the equivalent of early 90s BBS web groups.
That wouldn't surprise me.
So basically he's a Redditor.
Oh boy.
An early 90s version of a Redditor.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy.
So there's something interesting that I was finding out about this episode when I was going through the backstory of it, because there isn't a lot of backstory on what led up to the production of it, and I kind of wish there was, because Maurice Hurley, although he's kind of full of shit, he's an extremely good interviewee, and he has a lot of information and remembers a lot about working on this series, which is great when you get to hear the stuff that he has to say. But he doesn't talk a lot about what went into like the writing of the story for this episode, and I wish there had been more of that. But in terms of the background production, there was something back in the original series where it took them like almost a whole season to finally convince the execs to let them build a shuttlecraft, because they really wanted to do that in the first place, and the whole reason that transporters existed was because they didn't want to fit into the budget to build a shuttle.
Yeah.
So they finally did by writing an episode strictly about a shuttle. And this episode is similar to that because it's actually the first instance in TNG where we have like a proper shuttle being used.
Oh my god, I forgot about
that. We did see one in a previous episode, but it was a reuse of a shuttle pod from one of the movies. So yeah, we do get the actual first TNG shuttle in this, and it's the one that kid's flying off on. But because they were trying to like cut the budget as much as possible, they only built a quarter of the interior.
Yeah,
which is the quarter that kid is in. And as the series goes on, they add bits and pieces to the interior to the point where it doesn't match the exterior anymore. So they just eventually decide to build a whole new shuttle and not use that one anymore.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that kid running away and stuff.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah. Also, this shuttle is one we don't see very often.
Yeah, that story didn't really need to be in this episode. Like,
no, it would have been a C-plot, I think.
Yeah. I totally understand what they were going for. Like, I think it's supposed to be like a kind of mirror to Wesley's storyline. Where,
yeah, to an extent.
You know, his reaction to failure versus Wesley's reaction to failure. And, like, if you let failure consume you, you know, this is where it could lead and that kind of thing. But ultimately, it just was kind of like oh yeah, this kid.
I feel like the moment ended up serving Remek's character more than anything else, because I don't know if you recall, but his reaction to Picard talking the kid out of...
Oh yeah, he was stoked.
Oh yeah, he was so excited.
Yeah, and I think it's meant to show that Remek's separation between doing this job and his actual humanity, like they are separate things.
Mm-hmm.
So I did like that moment, but you're right in that they really could have done it any other way.
Yeah. I totally forgot that this episode had that stuff in it. The whole Remek stuff.
That's fair. Yeah. I always forget which episode the Remek stuff is in.
Because this episode is it's like 2 entire fully formed episodes together.
Yeah, there's a lot of story in this episode, and I still feel like it's well paced. Like, at no point was I bored. I never felt like it was rushed or like they were giving me way too much information. I thought it was just 2 stories that balanced pretty well together.
Yeah, I felt like usually when that happens, it's like it's too many ideas and like you don't really get to delve too deep into either thing. But I felt that they found a really good balance in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, now that I know that the Picard conspiracy part is like legit, then I can appreciate the episode substantially more.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Now you know that not only is it legit, but what it's intended to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't say, I guess I was excited because I know the implications of this going forward. So yeah, it's interesting to hear about someone who doesn't already know that, just being like, this is a fucking waste of time. And I wonder if people felt that way back in the day.
They might have. I'm not sure. It's difficult to find too much information on that. Mm-hmm. I also didn't look too hard for it, so there you go.
Yeah.
Fuck what the critics think. We're the critics now.
I suppose that when people were watching this the first time on TV, they weren't watching it the way we were.
Yeah.
Very true. They would have been watching it week to week.
Yeah, they're not analyzing it.
Yeah, plus I don't think they're thinking that much about like, oh, the episode ends and we're exactly back where we're starting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think
that was normal for TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also probably people just take, I mean, I'm sure I did, like a lot of shows just at face value. They're not thinking about it too hard. It's not until like if you do a second watching, then you start to notice stuff.
Yeah.
And if I was just watching the show for fun, I probably wouldn't. I don't know if I would have noticed, but also like I'm invested now, so I want to make sure that like stuff they're talking about, there's repercussions for later.
Yeah.
I'm invested in this show now.
One thing I did notice about the Remek stuff is that they really turned up like to 11 the over dramaticness in the soundtrack.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
There's 2 moments in particular. One of them is between Riker and Remek in the ready room, in which Remek stands up angrily, and I can't remember exactly what he says, but something about like, "Are you worried about what I'll find?" or something. And then it gives us this really weird shot of him where it looks like he's caught out in something, like, "Oh shit, I've revealed too much information." But it's like, but we know you're analyzing everyone for a problem. That's obvious.
Yeah.
And then they do it again between him and Picard in the scene just before it's revealed that it was like, oh, we're just making sure you're legit. And, the exact line is, "Are you afraid if I keep looking, I'll find that you're guilty?" And then there's the like, evil music cue. And again, he looks like he's been caught out, like he went too far and like he revealed too much of his plan. And it's like, wait a minute. We've already figured out that you're looking for a problem.
Yeah.
You've made it very clear. You have said it multiple times. Why does this require like ominous music?
Guys, can we pause really quick? I really have to go to the bathroom.
Go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Star Trek, Star Trek, Star Trek, Star Trek, Star Trek, Star Trek, Star Trek.
Okay, stop it. Stop it. Stop it!
So we were talking about the dramatic music when the guy's like, "Are you afraid I'm gonna
find out that you're guilty?"
Yeah. And I think, Dory, you were gonna say something?
Oh, yeah, he talks a lot about the captain's log.
Yes, he does, because that's where a lot of the evidence is, and because he's looking specifically for problems with Captain Picard.
Yeah. But there's one part, he's interviewing Data, and then the shot is Dexter responding to something, and then something's on a screen, and then the screen turns off, and then the reflection is Worf.
Yeah.
I actually thought that was a really neat transition.
That was pretty great. Yeah, I really...
I loved that. Sorry, I loved that whole scene. I love the way it was shot and the way they edited it.
Yeah, me too. They do a similar one in DS9 that I quite like.
Yes.
But this one I thought was really effective, especially for the 80s. There's just one major issue with it, and that's the fact that this was meant to be shown on standard definition television. And I don't know if you noticed how dark the reflection of Worf was.
It was pretty dark.
I don't think people would have been able to see that on the majority of TVs that were around at the time.
Yeah, probably not. They may not have been able to, like, plan around that. Like, or they just, like, miscalculated or something.
Yeah, that could have been. I mean, they could have used a reflective material that wasn't black, but, you know, that's what happened.
I wanted to talk about that scene because I really love the way they edited it.
Yes, agreed.
Like, they basically, what they do is, like, when they cut back and forth between whoever Reddick is talking to. Sorry, not Reddick, Remick. Whoever
Dexter?
John B. Riddick is talking to.
Yeah, whoever Dexter's talking to.
Dexter talking
yeah.
to.
Whoever he's talking to and his reaction shots, it's like, then they cut to the next person. And it's just like this seamless, like, transition between all the people he talks to on the
that
ship.
Was really strong.
Yeah, I just thought that was a really clever choice. And I love, because Dory, you were talking earlier about the line that Dr. Crusher gets in that scene.
Oh, yeah.
I love that, too, because he's talking... Because we know, like, her and Picard want to fuck. And he's talking...
They want some Riker time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. They can't fuck because we all have to think about Will Luke.
Well, no.
Or was it Jean Will?
It was Jean Will.
Sorry.
Yeah, I love that, too, because you kind of see the power dynamic shift. Because he's talking about her personal feelings towards Picard, and she's like obviously very uncomfortable, thinking like he means like romantic feelings. At least, like, this is my interpretation of that scene, thinking that he means romantic feelings. And then she's like, we're Starfleet officers, we've known each other for many years, like, that's it. And he's like, you know, you can be completely honest with me, like, everything's here is confidential, you can be open. And I forget exactly what she says, but she's basically like, what do you mean? And he's like, about your feelings, about serving for the man who, like, is responsible for your husband's death. And that's where you see the power switch happen. Because everything we've seen says that she has no negative feelings about that. And she's like, oh, shit, I called, like, you revealed your hand. Now the situation is in my hands, and I can tell you to fuck off.
Yeah. He's, like, probing at something. He thinks that she's going to break down for him.
Yeah.
I think he definitely underestimates her.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can be honest because, like, you know, this guy's responsible for the death of your husband. Though, you know, he didn't say Wesley's father, but he's basically just, like, zooms in on that, or zones right in on that. And she just is like... Oh, yeah, we're not going to talk about that.
We're not doing this. Because
that's exactly what you want me to talk about, so I'm not.
And that is such a fucked up move, too.
Yeah, but her reaction of, like, she basically goes, like, almost dead-eyed and is like, we're not going to talk about it. Just like, it's none of, and it's none of your business. Yeah,
she's like, no, we're not doing this.
This is actually, like, a weirdly Wesley... Crusher reference to Dead Crusher episode.
Yeah. It's weird because neither of them seem to have any emotions about that. We haven't seen Wesley really have much angst about his father, and we haven't seen Beverly have much angst about her husband.
I think, I don't know if it's just because, I mean, it would have been a long time ago.
Yes, it would have
been. Many
been.
years ago. Yeah. But I also wonder if it's like, when you become part of Starfleet, there's certain things that you just sort of have to, I guess, take with, I don't know, just, you know that you're like, I think they mentioned it. They mentioned it in one episode where you're risking your life for, like, this. You know what the job entails. And it's not that it makes it easier if a loved one dies in these situations, but I think it maybe makes you a little, it's not like shocking, or it's just sort of something.
Yeah, it's like being married to a soldier. It's like, you know the risks, and you know, like, what's possible.
I think that it actually fits very well with the direction that they were trying to go for what humanity has become in TNG. Because they really like to, Gene Roddenberry especially, really like to focus on the humans are beyond a lot of these, like, baser emotions and baser instincts. And things like grief and whatnot are things that we can get over a lot easier.
Yeah. Here's how I think that's dumb, personally.
Me too.
But here's how I choose to interpret it. Everyone has really good access to really good therapy.
That's what I was thinking too. She's a doctor.
That.
She's smart. And I feel like Beverly would have made, like, Wesley go to therapy too. Like, I'm sure, like, she's a very intelligent, rational woman. She probably went to therapy, and she probably sent Wesley to therapy as well. Because she knows, holding this shit in is not going to do well for either of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I also think that too. Therapy.
That's my positive Oasis version of the future, is everyone gets therapy.
PSA, everybody, if you're not going to therapy, do therapy. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Even if you think you don't need it, you need it. I promise you need it.
Yeah. I fully endorse that, and I mean that seriously.
Yes.
Therapy is for everyone.
Everyone go to therapy now.
If you have the means to. I know it's not always possible, which sucks.
Talk to your GPs.
Yeah.
Welcome to the medical section of our podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you shouldn't take mental health advice from us.
We're just therapy is good. Everybody should try therapy.
Speaking of therapy, I really liked the little therapy session between Worf and Wesley.
Yeah.
I wanted to get into that a little bit more because I really like...
What a segue.
Yeah. I really like how, like, the kind of philosophical message in that bit where he's like, yeah, of course, I'm still afraid, but it's not about not being afraid. It's about, like, how you deal with that fear, which I think is a very healthy way to look at it, because I think it's like, I think you get into problems when you start, like, policing emotions, It's less about, like, not having emotion, but it's, like, your reaction to those emotions and examining where they come from, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to, like, you just shouldn't feel this way.
Yeah, because normally, like, a lot of fears come from, like, a childhood trauma, or... I mean, there's a whole host of ways, but, like, the most common, like, phobias or whatever come from trauma. So, like, it's not easy to just, face it and move on.
Yeah.
It's that's why I also like to, I think Worf said something along the lines of, like, if only, like, a fool doesn't have fear or something.
Yeah, only fools have no fear.
Right, yeah. Because I think that's true. Like, I don't know, the stakes don't seem as high in your life if you're not scared of something. Like, I know what I'm scared of. I do not want to face them at any point.
Yeah.
But it definitely makes me, like, think about what I have or what I do to avoid these fears.
Exactly. And, like I have that too. Like, I have some, unresolved trauma and stuff like that. And, like, this is another endorsement for therapy, going through therapy and, like, not feeling stupid for feeling the way I do has been a really big help, and it's like, sure. Maybe from the outside, these things kind of seem dumb or whatever, but it's like, these come from, like, very legit places, and, you can understand that and work with it, and maybe, like, as you work through it, maybe you won't feel that way anymore, but it's not, the goal isn't to, like, just not have those feelings anymore. It's to work with those feelings and work with how they affect your life. Yeah. And your mind. It's like there's some things that, like, will kind of always be with you, but you'll like
there's just sort of like how you cope with it. Like
you can learn to cope.
Yeah, I have a kind of okayish example that comes to mind. I mean, I've said this on the podcast before. I'm very scared of snakes. Mm-hmm. It's from something in my childhood that I won't go into, but as an adult, like I've seen a bunch of snakes in person. They always find me. I think it's because I'm scared. I always, in a very metropolitan city like Toronto, I have seen a stupid amount of snakes, full out snakes with people carrying them on the street. I was at the Eaton Center once and a guy brought in one of those big ass yellow snakes.
Oh, geez.
That's amazing.
Into the food court. Yeah. Think about that. A guy brought a huge ass snake into the food court of the Eaton Center.
Oh my God.
Downtown Toronto. Yeah, I was so scared. I did look real sketchy running through the the subway area to get on the subway. I looked crazy. Anyways, but my point is, so this has been something I've had since I was a child, but for my birthday this past year, my birthday was at the end of October and we were in between lockdowns. So some stuff was open and I went with my mother to the Toronto Zoo as one celebrates their birthday as an adult. But you know what? Honestly, it was really fun. But in the past, I always avoided the like indoor pavilions because that's where they keep the snakes.
Yeah.
And so literally for years and years, I would go nowhere near the pavilions. And because of that, I would always miss the other animals in there. This time, I was like, you know what? I want to see those goddamn gorillas. They're beautiful. And I want to fucking see the gorillas. I want to see the pygmy hippos. We're going in there. And I'm like, Mom, you are going to guide me and keep your eyes peeled for anything that moves that doesn't have arms and legs. Spoiler, she did a very bad job of this job. She did, I was like, Mom, you have one job. You have one job, and that's to watch for snakes. And she did the worst job. She truly, I saw a bunch, but I was like, no, I want to see a pygmy fucking hippo. And I want to see those gorillas. And I saw and when I finally got to the gorillas, because the gorillas was at the end of one of the pavilions, one of the gorillas was like holding his hands out to like looking at its nails. And I was like, oh, my mom does that. I was like, that's such a human thing to do. And I enjoy that so much. I wouldn't have gone to see the gorillas looking at its nails like that if I was not in a pavilion. So I was like, you know what? I have not faced my fears. I'm still very scared of snakes. But I was like, I want to see the gorillas. That was
that's
more
awesome,
important
dude.
to me.
That is legitimately awesome. I'm very proud of you.
So, thank you. Yeah, I saw like 4 snakes, which I'm really not happy about. Fortunately, no faces.
Oh, that's
I can't. The faces where you totally like I can't. Mm-hmm. But
Snakeses.
Yeah, I can't. Faces of snakeses. But yeah, my mom did a bad job. She did buy me dinner that night. It was also my birthday, so happy birthday, me. But yeah, I wasn't facing it per se. I didn't have to interact, but I still knew that I was going to have to come into contact in some capacity if I went in those buildings. But it was like my interest of wanting to see the other animals in the building outweighed not going into the building.
That's still like a step further than you could before.
Yeah, and this is, I don't even know the last time I actually went in any of the pavilions. Not that I go to the zoo that much. Mm-hmm. It's far away, all the way in Scarborough, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
That's why you go on your birthday, kids. Get your family to pay for you. Just kidding. I was going to say Mom, but she doesn't listen to this, so. Yeah. No, but I actually do recommend when stuff opens. If you live in Toronto, the zoo's beautiful.
Yeah, it is a legitimately great zoo.
Yeah, I got to see like this huge polar bear right up close who's like lounging at the window. So I have a really bunch of this guy was so close to me that if there's no glass, he would have eaten my face. It would have been incredible. Anyways, yeah, the whole thing with fear, yeah, it's if you don't have fear, like exactly what are you? It also makes me like suspicious of someone who says they don't have a fear, because like, what are you hiding? You have some kind of insecurity that you're lying. Everybody's got something, and the fact that you're not telling somebody what it is, then it's also like makes me suspicious of like you're not telling somebody for a reason, or you're not willing to face anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just is like
And you really kind of
bad vibes.
You really can cut yourself off from a lot of avenues in life by giving into your fears, you know? And I'm not saying that you should like just go gung-ho and like, you know, fully expose yourself to your fears and that kind of thing. But it's like, you know, sometimes you do have to push yourself out of your comfort zone, and you'll be surprised at like how far you can get sometimes. And the point is like not to do it all at once, but like there's definitely like your example with the snakes. There's like whole sections of the zoo you wanted to see that you like cut yourself off from, right? Because you didn't want to risk seeing them. And you know, there's other examples like if you have like a fear of public speaking and stuff, you can cut yourself off from, you know, professional opportunities and that kind of thing. If you're scared of like phone calls, you know, you cut yourself off from, you know, getting a lot of stuff done and that kind of thing.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at people who are afraid of phone calls. I have a lot of friends who don't like to make phone calls, and I usually end up having to do phone calls for them.
I'm one of them.
Which is fine. Which I don't mind. I've had a lot of jobs that require me to answer phones. I can do phones.
I really hate the phone. It's the uncanny valley of communication. You only get a part of the story. At least when you're face to face, you get the whole picture. You get the tone of voice, you get the body language, you get the actual words, everything. If you're communicating through text message, it's like you have the words and it's just like completely neutral kind of
there's no tone
deal. The phone is like this weird halfway, you know? Because like in person, if you have an awkward silence, it's not as bad as an awkward silence on the phone.
I'm sorry, I just love that you called a phone call the uncanny valley of communication.
That's how I think of it.
I mean, it is uncomfortable to call people.
Because it's like...
I don't know. I think I'm just used to it.
Yeah.
But I do love that as a idea.
But that's the thing is like, I absolutely hate phone calls. I'm not afraid of phone calls, but I fucking hate it. I hate it so much. It's one of my least favorite things. But sometimes I push through it because I just have to do it. And like there's certain things I wouldn't get done if I didn't, you know?
Fair.
And that's like a lot of fears is like they can sometimes you don't realize what you're missing out on in life when you just completely protect yourself from your fears, you know? So yeah, sometimes you have to push out of that. But that's also where another endorsement for therapy, but that's where therapy can come in too, is like dealing with that in like a controlled step-by-step manner.
Oh yeah, I had a really weird way of somebody trying to get me to confront my fear of snakes when I was a kid, and it went poorly very quickly.
Yeah.
Did they throw you in a pit of snakes like Indiana Jones?
No, my grade 8 homeroom teacher got a snake as a class pet, and I wouldn't go in the classroom for a while, and then she moved it to the back closet where like our textbooks were. So for like a really long time, when the snake was in the back, somebody always had to get a textbook for me, and then like the class would like crowd around to watch like her feed fish to the snake, and I was the only one just like sitting by myself on the other side of the room, like no thanks, hard pass. But what my teacher thought would be helpful was that she had printed off a picture of a snake from the computer, and she told me that I should keep it in my pencil case.
Oh God.
But at 13 years old, I was like, I couldn't even deal with a picture. Now I don't want a picture. I can kind of deal with it, but I could like knock it away with my own hand. For this, I had to get people to take the paper out of my pencil case because I wouldn't touch it and throw it in the garbage for me. So it wasn't a great way to do it. No. Because she would also like this teacher, I really, really liked her, but she thought this was being helpful. And she would just like, when she found out the picture was gone, that I got somebody to toss it, she'd give me a new one. And then it was this like cycle over like a couple of months of doing this. And then she's like, okay, you keep throwing it out. This isn't obviously working. I'll leave you alone for this.
Yeah.
And then eventually the snake was taken from the back room into the main part of the classroom. And then I had to sit in the back, like on the other side of the room for the entire rest of the year because I wouldn't go to that entire side of the room.
Oh, man.
Which was an issue.
Yeah.
Because there was like half the classroom I couldn't go near.
Yeah.
But I was 13 years old when this was happening. Like,
seems well-intentioned, but definitely not the way to go.
I mean, she was a science teacher, not a psychiatry teacher. I mean, she was a great teacher, but yeah, that was not. I adored her in like basically every subject except for the dealing with my phobia subject.
Yeah. Yeah. That was definitely not the move for her.
Yeah. Now I could throw out my own picture, but I wouldn't want to look at it still.
Yeah. And that's like with you, as far as I know, you're not like actively working on your fear of snakes. So
yeah, I'm not. It's just sort of thinking of like, what am I missing if I don't deal with it?
Yeah.
But on the other hand,
that's the improvement you've made.
My fear of Australia is still not. Sorry, Australia. You look beautiful. I've got family that has lived there off and on for a few years. One cousin's still there right now, but you know what? Too many snakes. Too many things I don't want to meet. So sorry, Australia.
Yeah. Yeah. My point is that like that's the improvement you've made without like actively working on it. So, like, that's a big deal.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
This far into my life, baby steps.
Yeah. And I feel like that's the approach for most things. It's just baby steps. And it's like, it really is like giving yourself credit. It's like I have, like, one of my big personal issues is like keeping my personal space tidy. You know, even getting like one corner organized and stuff is like, it sounds small, but it's actually a big deal for me. And like, you know, from the outside, it's like, well, you didn't really do much, but like, you know, you're not in my head. You don't know my inner life and my history. So like, if you have a similar thing, like, give yourself credit. It's like the small things do matter, and they build up to bigger things.
Plus, everybody's got a different sense of, like, you know, ranges. Like, for example, I'm not the neatest person in the world, but the way my apartment is currently, I'm like, yeah, this will do. Mm-hmm. This is fine. If my mom saw this, she would burn the building to the ground.
Yeah.
Do you know what she said to me? She goes, when it's safe to, you know, go into people's homes again, she's like, I'm bringing a bucket and a mop and I'm going to just clean your whole apartment. And I was like, it's not that bad. Yeah. It's really not. But she, like, you know, everybody's got different scales of what like works for them and what doesn't.
If someone's offering to clean my apartment for me,
oh, 100%. I'm like, do it.
Yeah.
Oh, last year, my best friend loves cleaning, and we were going to go through my closet and get rid of, like, clothes and stuff. And she was like, and I love cleaning bathrooms. And I'm like, oh, have I got a dirty bathroom for you? I hate cleaning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, you know, it's like the one person's trash is another person's treasure, but in scale.
Yeah.
I guess. Everything's different for everybody in terms of what I think it if you're working on yourself in that capacity, then, like, you know what, A for effort.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, gang, for coming to our therapy corner, our side segment of the episode.
Yeah.
Fully Functional, a psychology podcast.
Yeah.
TNG and TNG and stuff.
I love that in this episode we're talking about, like, you know, emotions and dealing with fear and stuff. And last episode we had a very long discussion about Doritos.
And setting an atmosphere for Mars.
Yeah. I guess we should get back to the episode.
I mean, I think we pretty thoroughly did go over the episode.
Yeah, I think we,
so as well.
we did a pretty good job with this episode.
What does the audience think? Is everyone okay with it?
Yeah.
No, you're not the audience. Let's ask the audience. What do you guys think? Well, they're not talking. Okay, so I guess we'll move on.
Sorry, audience, you don't get a vote this time.
Yeah.
Sorry, I literally couldn't hear you guys. Just, I guess you're muted or something. Sorry.
All right. Is there any like favorite parts or just stuff we haven't gotten to yet that you wanted to bring up?
I think we basically covered everything. I mean, my favorite part is Riker sitting on that chair.
Yes.
In the weirdest way possible, but I loved it.
Remember, that's the Riker Maneuver.
The Riker Maneuver.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, okay. So this isn't my favorite, but I did enjoy this line a bit. So Greg is like, "Hey, Dexter, so what's the conclusion? Give me your report." And Dexter's like, "I spoke to officer after officer at length. I pried into the ship's logs, and yet I could find nothing wrong, except perhaps a casual familiarity among the bridge crew. But mostly that comes from a sense of teamwork and a feeling of family."
Aww.
Yeah.
And then after he's like, "I'd like to join this family in 6 months if that's
Yeah.
cool."
The family that all hate me.
Yeah. It's like, "Oh, Dexter, you are barking up the wrong tree."
Yeah.
I did quite, even though it got me kind of mad at the time, Greg's like really vague conversation with Picard about the like shenanigans that are going on, the conspiracy of the like, there's certain problems. Someone or something is trying to destroy the fabric of everything we've built up in the last 200 years. And Picard's like, "What's your evidence?" And he's like, "Well, I can't tell you."
Yeah.
He goes, "I can't go into that. There are too many people involved." Picard's like, "What do you want from me? I don't know whether the threat comes from the inside or whether it's from the outside. I need people I can trust in strong positions throughout the Federation." I was like, "Greg, this means nothing."
Yeah.
Greg, throw us a bone.
Oh my God. I almost forgot. The very end of the episode, Picard in his fancy coat.
Oh yeah, in his dress uniform.
Yes. Love the fancy coat.
Which he doesn't have the pips on for some reason.
Oh, I didn't even notice
Well,
that.
Gladys Knight has the pips.
Ew.
I'm sorry.
I have two things that I wanted to get into. One short, one maybe more lengthy. The first one is when Riker's trying to intimidate Remick on the bridge, and he's like, he has his chest puffed out and he's standing really close. I just kind of thought that was hot.
Nice.
Because he's like significantly taller than him, and like height differences are just kind of do it for me. I just thought that was hot. The other thing I wanted to get into was the psych test for Wesley.
Yeah.
That feels highly unethical to me.
Yes, agreed.
Like, that's a really fucked up move to make him like think someone actually is gonna die and set up that whole scenario.
I mean, I guess the Academy pulls no punches.
Yeah.
But at the very least, he only has to be nervous for a short time because,
Yeah.
like, we know that screaming guy lives 5 seconds later when he, like, is like, "Peace, I'm done."
Yeah. But, like, even Mordok comes
and, like,
out,
nods
like,
at him on the way
fucking
up.
traumatized.
Yeah. I kind of want to know what the other psych evals for the other people.
Yeah. But yeah, that's just the other thing, is, like, I think, like, that seemed super unethical to do.
Well, congratulations, Starfleet Academy, for traumatizing your candidates. Can you imagine, though? Here's another question. If Wesley does this next year, and he has to do the psych thing, which I know you guys said that they don't really do it this way again, but, like, would this make Wesley know what they're going to pick? They know that he will then know his biggest fear is making life-death situations, so he'll be, like, prepared.
It could be. They could.
And isn't that kind of cheating?
Yeah.
Or Wesley develops a severe, like, phobia of, like, spiders in the next year.
Yeah. I don't know, actually. I would imagine that, like, they'd get, like, updated psychological information for him. So maybe they'll decide, like, that there's something else that
Or
they should test him on.
his biggest fear is Dr. Crusher marrying Picard, and he just like his fear is like the wedding. But I mean, that's not obviously his biggest fear, but that would be
Captain. You mean
that'd be great.
father?
Oh God! Oh my God! Oh, Wesley.
Please, Wes, call me Daddy.
Ew.
No. We already know that Picard hates Wesley.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2 things. My favorite thing about the episode is, oddly enough, not any of the real content. It's how fucking awesome Mordoc's makeup is.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it until there's this one moment when he's coming out of the psych test, and he blinks, and, like, you just notice that it's off for one moment, because the way his eyes closed, it kind of, like, it doesn't catch the makeup all the way properly. But in every other moment, I'm completely convinced by it. It's fantastic makeup.
It looks really good.
The other moment is definitely the cut admission that Wesley's favorite pastime is being a Redditor.
Is this like clip on YouTube? Could I find that?
I don't know if the clip has actually been released, but there's a bunch of like footage. Not footage. There's a bunch of like images from it. But
okay.
yeah, the amount of TNG like extra content that's actually out there to go and watch is pretty low, because when the series was released on Blu-ray, there were a lot of special features that made their way onto YouTube, and CBS cracked down on them very hard.
Oh.
So the scene might exist in its entirety somewhere. I just don't know where.
Oh, okay.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. I would have liked to see Wesley's birthday party.
All I know is that it was for sure shot, because there are like on set photos of it.
Yeah, but we will show you the Riker sitting down montage.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Or should we
One
not? Because spoilers.
No. Like I think in the future I want to see it, but
okay.
not now.
Yeah, you can
because
see
then
it
I don't
right
wanna
after
know.
the end of the 7th season.
Okay. So a couple of years from now.
Yeah.
Well, something to look forward to when Corona's done. By the time I get to see that montage,
Hopefully.
maybe it will be. The world will be a different place. Oh my God.
We'll call it pre-corona and post-corona.
Yeah.
Oh God.
With that, we should get into predictions for the next episode.
Oh yes.
Oh, yes.
So the next episode is called Heart of Glory. And
Okay.
Dory, I think you'll be excited because this is a Worf episode.
Yay.
And Worf finally gets to meet some other Klingons.
Oh God. Okay. Heart of Glory.
Heart of Glory.
Mm-hmm.
And Worf gets to meet other Klingons.
This is actually one of the first... this is the first time that we're properly meeting other Klingons outside of the films since the original series in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going real left field. Okay, Worf is athletic. He seems to like sports, and maybe, I don't know why Hand of Glory makes me think. It kind of makes me think
Heart
of the
of Glory.
Heart of Glory. Yeah, sorry, Heart of Glory. It makes me think of the Olympics. So, okay, there's like maybe some kind of sports festival on a planet, and our gang decides to check it out, and when he's there, one of the other teams that are competing in these sports things are some Klingons. It's probably so wrong, but I don't know. For whatever reason, Heart of Glory made me think of the Olympics. But Summer Olympics, not Winter Olympics, weirdly enough, even though I don't actually care that much about Summer Olympics. I'm a Winter Olympics girl, 100%. So I think it's an Olympics episode.
Okay.
Also, I was pretty wrong. Sort of. I was pretty wrong my last prediction about the like second thing of like I think the B plot. I said Crusher was going to try to like ruin Wesley's sabotage, which in a way, I mean, yes, the person place thing was wrong, but there was like in a way, if you think about it in an abstract sort of way, the B plot was kind of seeing if there was sabotage done on the ship, sort of. So, okay, no, 0 points. I'm grasping at straws there. No, I was wrong.
Okay, so why don't you guys watch along with us and see if Dory's right about the next episode? We'll see you next time on Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Goodbye.